After an action-packed debut to the season last time out, the Precision Racing League and its GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series get ready for a challenging one. It's time to go fast around the World Center of Racing, iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway, here on RaceSpot. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince alongside the booth for tonight. Dylan Coyle, Ramiro Augustus Cisneros as our producer for tonight's action as we get set for round number 2, Dylan. The first round seen some interesting moments at Fuji, but today we're at a speed track, one with plenty of draft for the drivers to utilize.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here at Daytona, one of the best racetracks in the world, and that's only talking about the oval. Then we move over to the road course, the 24-hour configuration, and it's a lot of fun. Some iconic corners here, the horseshoes, both sides of them, and of course the bus stop chicane at the back stretch of the regular circuit. High speeds, lots of fun, and traffic does become an issue at some point, especially in multi-class, but we might see some traffic here in GT3 racing.
We'll see how that really plays out here tonight. Mind you, it's the second round of the season before we go to Bassano next time. Then it's the heart of the schedule with Brands Hatch, Spa, and Nürburgring. Then you, of course, throw in tracks like Mugello, on with tracks like Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari and Road America. It's a pretty challenging schedule, as we talked about last week. These drivers are in the midst of. How things looked last time, though, Jim Felice dominated. He put up a strong performance for a max amount of points, 56 for the pro standings. Over Luke Wallace, Kwok Nin, your top 3 coming in. The rest of the drivers in terms of their positioning, McKay, Keane. You also had William Fenton show speed. Soleil Sayad quietly did well in 7th. Trinket, Miller, and Bruno were the top runners in the pro class. Then you have Jared Tapoy, who led the way in the M class after some excitement towards the end of that one. Joey Costello finished second in terms of point ranking for the class last time. Nathan Jennings rounded out that top 3, but had a few pro cars in between him and Costello. He, mind you, led the way for much of that class, but did drop back towards the very end of the race. Colin McKenzie rounding out the top 5 for that respective class, coming in to Daytona International Speedway. Remember the team standings as well. SRT Yellow leading the way over SRT Black. Both of their teams looked outright electrifyingly difficult to pass last time out. We'll see if that keeps up with the fixed side here tonight. You also throw SRT White and Orange. Their 4 of 5 teams are 4 of said 5 teams. The top 5 with only Michigan GT3 Racing as the buffer so far this season.
I mean, when you come to the teamwork, right, you're always going to have drivers, even across sister teams, that are helping each other out, making sure that they have the best possible spots. But, hey, Justin, we've got some fun partners to read from.
Yes, indeed. First things first, Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available on the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products used in the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceboxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. So every nuance, ensure you put yourself in the driver's seat. Baradness, a performance lifestyle brand, is motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit Moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And by Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Speaking of drivers, they're currently in the midst of their final 6 minutes or so of qualifying here at the World Center of Racing. And right now leading the way, no surprise, Jim Felice amongst the pro drivers, and in fact your top 8 pro drivers in the session. right now 92 degrees Fahrenheit, the track conditions. It's a later evening start to the sessions here tonight, mind you. So we'll see how things progress for the weather today.
Yeah, and of course that Florida heat, when it is sunny and in the middle of the day, it can get really, really hot. It can beam down on this racetrack. Obviously, that's not the conditions we're seeing here. Cooler temperatures means more grip, and it lasts for longer. We don't expect any stops for tires in this race. We do expect one for fuel, though.
Drivers have already been told to don't be afraid to strategize, just don't risk others' races. Gil Bleeman showing some good speed right now, leading a train of cars though. Several of his SRT teammates in the train, Joshua Chinsky, Evan McKay. Draft going to be pretty significant for much of this race. You need to be good in the infield for the horseshoes, but you still need drafting partners for the speedway portion.
Yeah, if you're within a specific amount of time behind a driver in front of you on the last couple laps, you're going to get a really nice boost of speed because you're on throttle for a ton of this lap time. The only kind of separation between full throttle for the remaining of the track once you get out of the infield section coming out of turn 6 here is that bus stop in the back. So other than that, you're full throttle all the way from 6 to turn 1, and that is almost 2.5 miles.
Walter Walden pressurized a mistake there in the midst of the qualifying session, breaking up some teammates. So far, Feliz seems comfortable with the 145 flat. So what's the conversation like, again, amongst the teammates for a qualifying session like this where 2-car tangos, 3-car groupings, 4-car groupings so critical? You don't want to be the lead driver of a pack in this qualifying session in most cases.
No, but you also want to, if you're working with teammates, you can do something where you just kind of swap positions, right? Where one gets the benefit of the slipstream. You kind of maximize both of your times that way. You just don't fight, right? That's the biggest thing. And that's what helps so much when you do have teammates that are fast and can stay up with you in the draft with a car that has some speed in the engine.
It's Osborne keeping an eye on there for a moment. Kwok Nim now back towards him. He's in the Corvette here in this one and looking to charge, and pretty clear that he wants to make sure everything's not in focus in the backdrop tonight.
Yeah, I think that's for sure the way to go about things, as usually we see drivers have their own kind of flair in the background. I guess Kwok is all business in the front. Nothing in the back, which is, I think he wants everything to be in the back in this race.
Yes. Evan McKay, keeping an eye on him. It's going to be position focused for tonight because you need to be in the lead pack to have a chance, but at the same time, Dylan, you don't potentially want to be the lead car the whole way because of the fuel burn situation, possibly.
Yeah, 100%, but I don't think these drivers are going to be even close when it comes to running out of fuel. It's really just saving a second or two in pit lane when you do have to come in so you don't have to maybe put as much fuel to get to the end of the race. We'll probably see some drivers try and, get the quickest time possible by short fueling, and if that happens, they might run out of fuel by the end of this race. So something to keep in mind.
Walking him now to the top of the board. Keep an eye on Andrew Trinket now up to the top 5 as well. His B&O Racing Machine working with Ross Sortino. Jared Deploy also in this drafting pack at the moment. Of note, normally this would be a track where a lot of, say, the AM drivers would take advantage in theory. So keep an eye on Mark Elliott. The highest running AM driver is just in 14th in this session.
It's not the most difficult racetrack to get right whatsoever. Of course, the kink in the horseshoe is one of the more dangerous, death-defying corners on this racetrack, but with just a few specific quirks to the infield section, if you can figure it out, you can be fast here. So it is surprising that you said that, Justin, that really we're seeing the AM class not as strong as we imagine right now in 16th with Joey Costello.
Ryan Chandler? Well, those are some different sunglasses. I didn't realize they made physical versions of those.
I don't think they're... I think they're a filter. See, they're moving a little bit. Yeah, that's definitely a filter.
I didn't realize they made filters like that anymore. But, hey, there's filters that make you into cats. There's filters that can definitely make sunglasses appear on your face. Buck Hamilton, one of the AM drivers, currently, in fact, amongst the top 5 for those at the moment in session. That is changing as a lot of drivers are finding pace late. Jim Felice, you did see moments ago, did peel on the racetrack because of the 3/10 gain by Nin in his Corvette. Which car do you think this is going to favor the most this track tonight, and why?
I think it's definitely going to be the Corvette. They already have a pretty good hold up top from the few spots in the top 5. 3 out of the 5 are Corvettes in this session. 2 of them are Porsches, which I'm a little bit surprised about. I don't always think of the Porsche as a top speed kind of race car, but it could be a little bit, you know, different. They're going to be a little bit more agile through the infield section as the checkered flag on this session has come out. Drivers will still be able to finish their qualifying lap as Osborne goes through some smoke right there. I definitely say the Corvette. If a Porsche wins, it's going to be based off a little bit more of that good old driver talent that we all know and love.
Indeed, we're just about done the qualifying. Most drivers ready to peel on down this time. Others trying to see what their times lay. But Osborne amongst those, currently in the top 5, was in competition for the top 5 before some slip-ups last time.
I love that sound. That's such a nice sound. I'm sorry, Justin, for not completely answering what you were saying. I just wanted to hear that.
Well, let's see where his time flies to. He's electing to go for it, using all the space he can. A 1:44.9. That's second best.
Not bad at all for Osborne. He really needs a solid result here. I mean, listen, we're talking about a past champ. He's the kind of driver I feel like needs to have a good showing here. Not last season. It was not a good one for him, but if he can maybe get a win in race number 2 after such a poor start to this one, not a bad way to go about it.
All drivers completed the qualifying laps. Everyone else to pit road. Nim and Osborne will be on your front row, separated by 2/10 here tonight. Caleb Lehman starting row 2 alongside Jim Felice. Luke Wallace and Andrew Trinket round out your top 6 starting spots. Back in 7th is Felix Felice alongside Joshua Chinsky. Tyler Graff rounds out the top 10 with Evan McKay. Then it's Ross Sortino and Jared Deploy ends up picking up the top BAM spot in qualifying over Sean Provost and Sully Syad. Christopher Rhines, Vince Genero amongst the top 16 rather. Brett Thurman, Joey Costello is back in 18th. That's third best AM, I should say. William Fenton and Buck Hamilton, Heath Maicha and David Bush III. Colin McKenzie back alongside Andrew Venaro in your top 24. Nick Bruno and Joseph Carnes alongside Walter Walden and Dan Elgin. Then Sean Mulholland and Ryan Chandler back in 30th. Robert Jeffries alongside Brennan Bettil start on in front of Stanovic and Regan Chandler. Brent Pancari way back in the field in 35th alongside Andre Benatti tonight. Then Mark Elliott start in front of a whole bunch of AM drivers. That includes Chris Treiber, Austin Fink, Barry Cochran, David Morse, and Kevin Berquist. Berquist with a crash in qualifying. Bryce Bombeck and Ian Cabana round out the drivers who take times. No time set in 20 minutes by 2 other drivers tonight. Jay Steffi and Nathan Jennings did not get a single valid lap in. Here's a look at the temperatures. It's about 7 o'clock in sim, 35 minutes on the clock. Your keys to win this one.
I mean, it's just about staying with the front of the pack. The draft is going to be strong. If you get caught out, if you get maybe into a third grouping of cars early in this race, you're going to have very seldom a chance of getting back up front. So staying with that lead group, it's going to be oh so important.
Who do you think is going to get the job done and why?
Oh my goodness, I think you can never count out Jim Feliz. Even starting in 4th, he's shown that not only has he been the fastest driver over the last season and one race, but he's consistent, right? He doesn't really put a foot wrong, so I still think you have to look at Jim as the driver to beat in this one, even though he's not starting at a podium spot.
Different mindsets from the drivers you've seen in the cameras as they get ready to hit the racetrack here for the pace lap. They will have to take the bus stop for the most part because there are tire barriers up in the bus stop now to prevent anybody from trying to run on through and get the time advantage during the racing conditions. It's going to be an interesting one, though, how drivers handle this racetrack, especially with potential of attrition already a talking point of the drivers' meeting.
Yeah, attrition is definitely going to be a big point. Faster speeds means that you're going to see a lot more high-speed racing with that high-speed collisions. These drivers are going to be running close with each other. Turn 1, heavy braking zone. There's a few of those on the circuit. Of course, the bus stop. This is going to be fun once we do get to green flag racing here in the GT3 Fixed Series.
A flurry of Corvettes starting up front. 4 of the top 5 are in Corvettes. The rest of the top 6 Porsches. We're happy with this PRL's coverage here on RaceSpot, should say, the GT3 Fixed Series. 35 minutes to get the job done. We'll see who does so. Early launch, green flag is out, we're underway from Daytona. Quacknim not wasting any time to get a single file down at the front. Others, a little bit more aggressive, 3 wide in the battle for about 7th. Everybody else now having some snack of some contact for about 7th.
Some argy-bargy early on. No surprise that we're having drivers make contact through turn 1 as they snake through that turn 2S and get to the International Horseshoe. They'll start the run down into this left-handed high-speed kink.
That was indeed Felix Feliz, by the way, the wrong way around, all while Quacknim looks to try and set the tone early. Single file through the horseshoes now. To go to the in and out this time. Luke Wallace amongst those under attack in the backdrop. However, Sean Provo should say, did pick up the M lead in this first minute already as they head to the speedway.
Yeah, and that's up to 10th for Sean Provo, so pretty good showing from him in this first half of lap 1. Some side-by-side racing going on right here between Sortino and Wallace for 5th.
Still side by side a little bit, actually. How long do they elect to keep it up? Will either of them back out? Yes, Wallace elects to go into the line and allow the run by Sortino. Sortino had started in 11th to begin this race.
Really solid start there as we see more side by side between those two. Feel like this is going to go wrong if they go 3 wide, almost some contact. What is this, the Daytona 500?
Some people may think about it that way, side by side still. 2 minutes down off the board this time around. Wallace again trying to go for the crossover, and Sortino turns him.
No contact into the outside wall there, Justin, but that is going to be detrimental to a chance of a race win for him all the way back there. Goodness me. I mean, you can't do that on lap 2.
I was about to say that was not pretty. That rejoin was nearly worse, but they still get it back rolling. Sortino with significant contact, avoided damage somehow from that situation. So that's what one thing that we may see happen today can be trouble in the infield. We've seen a lot of dive bombs lead to contact over the years here.
Yeah, it's one of the best places to make a move here. There's a lot of places to make a move, but obviously that's one of them. Here's Felix Feliz, and Felix, you know, that rejoin there was, well, I should say that off join, off exit?
Off
That
ramp.
was weird. That almost looked like an equipment failure.
Yeah, already spun around once. Here's what happened just now. Yeah, just got a touch loose.
Yeah, there was some contact in the rear right there as well. You're not kidding about that rejoin. What a close disaster, a close call for all those drivers in the back of the pack. He gets his right sides on the grass too when trying to get back up to speed. I mean, it is a situation where obvious fault is given right there to Sortino, but it wasn't with malintent. Unfortunately, it does lead to Wallace being all the way in the back of the field.
So Kwaknim, the fastest on the racetrack, picked up 2/10 from the rest of the field in this train. Jim Feliz, the caboose of said train for the time being. But there is a saying, if you're able to break away from a drafting train, it's hard to catch up to you.
Yeah, 100%. But at that same point, you do use a lot more fuel than everybody else would be. So that advantage that you can gain here, will it still remain once that fuel stop comes?
There's Provo, the top running AM driver. He's in the highest running of the Fords as well. They're one of those new muscle power GTs on the service. And so far, doing very solid up to 9th. He's in the second pack. Looking back at some of the other packs meanwhile.
Yeah, pretty solid right now. We'll see where Provost...
Apologies there. Was about to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, really solid showing from those two AM drivers right now. 2 in the top 10. It is like that, you were saying earlier, Justin, a track where you feel like that separation of skill, it's not as big when it comes to Pro Class and AM Class drivers. I'll get a look at the positions gained here, and Provost 4, Deploy 2, no movement in the top 4.
Yeah, right now Lehman in particular staying in the line. Lehman in those googly eyes set the fastest lap just now in the midst of tow. He's having fun with this again.
Well, listen, if you can get the googly eyes on that car, I think that adds maybe a 10th per lap.
I can see what
I should say.
I can see what you're saying. Hey. VR headset as well, though. A lot of those people who use VR headsets, that's their preference, and it can find you a lot of speed if you do it right.
True, and a lot of drivers do have the benefit of some higher-end VR headsets. You know, some of them, a lot of people prefer the Valve Index for a number of years. However, it is showing its age, so whether you go with some of the more high-fidelity ones, I know there's a new one in PC VR coming in August with the wire, the cord that's coming for the PSVR 2. That is going to be another interesting thing with some OLED displays. Oh, I love my VR technology.
Yeah. There's some good VR headsets, at the very least, out on the market. And the better the headset, more likely you are to be able to rotate and see around like a swivel. Look at this banking difference, though, that you put a head on a swivel in the midst of this. Right now, Lehman slipping back a little bit this lap, 1 second behind the leader.
I know that obviously you can tell how big the difference is between just being on more of the flat surface like you get right here versus being in the banking. It's a really good camera, but unless you're trying to walk on that banking in person, you'll never understand just how massive it is, how steep it is. This does a good job at showing it, at replicating it, but my goodness, Justin, I'm not sure. Have you ever been on the banking at Talladega or Daytona?
Physically, you mean?
Yes.
Maybe when I was 7. That's the last time.
Well, I was absolutely terrified when I was walking through turn 3 against the wall at Talladega, and I said, oh boy, how do I get down?
Well, you can basically treat it like a bowling alley ramp. It's about 5 stories tall, is it not?
I would say so. Yeah, for sure. It's, I don't know if it's 5 stories, but it certainly feels like it's 20.
Especially with how big the steep banking is. Jared Deploy is keeping in range for the AM lead, mind you, 8th and 9th respectively. You know who's doing really well compared to last time? Tyler Graff doing a good job tonight.
Yeah, doing a really solid job up into the top 5. Graff was the other driver I was looking at who needs a good result. You know, he was right there behind Jim Feliz last season at the championship's end. And I feel like Graff is one of those drivers that any given season, if he's able to put in some really good performances, he can be there, not just fighting for a podium spot in the championship, but also the championship as a whole. Jim Feliz currently in 4th. The top 4 drivers pretty close. Graff obviously getting chased down by Sortino, a further 4 seconds back of the top 3 or 4, I should say. Potential look at a move there in a 1.
Can't get the pokes though this time, and we've already seen that Ferrari make some great strides throughout this race. These drivers need 3 seconds though to close up, and that's not going to be easy to gain unless you strategize. A change for the AM lead though. Deploy, setting himself a little bit too deep in the corner on the Sen. Provo able to jump back up.
This is a wild mess back here in the infield section. Everyone is close around each other on the cusp of making it into the top 10 and the back end of the top 10. Cool, a bunch of different cars involved, a bunch of different manufacturers, a bunch of different makes. We love to see that.
Noticing though that the 3 car getting very loose. Some of these Corvettes and Mustangs getting really throttle sensitive as the tires wear. Chinsky making a pass on his fellow classmate.
Yeah, and I think especially getting back onto the banking here, some drivers are really going to try and put some throttle in it early, because the earlier you get into the throttle, the earlier you get traction, the faster you're going to be once you have to get back into the braking zone here for the bus stop as they all move in single file. No attempts at a move, but a blink right there. That is not something you want to do with being in the middle of traffic like that.
No siree indeed. Deploy now had to find a way back around Chinsky possibly. But look through the bus stop. That choo-choo train effect back there starts to really bottle things up as time passes. Let's take a look at what's happened with the replay machine, because the in and out chase Steffi. He started towards the back after not qualifying, got loose and avoids contact at least.
Well, you know, that's kind of what happens when you kind of, you know, string your hands together. As we watch Andre Benatti here, he got a little bit loose getting in. He sees 2 cars spinning in front, gets some contact, some flying debris. That's a bigger incident than I think we initially thought. And look at that, the A23 also around.
Yeah, several scattered about there. That's Mark Elliott. It's part of those turning him around there. But up front, Jim Feliz has just about lost this grouping nearly. He's back by 0.8 to Caleb Lehman, and getting bigger per lap.
Yeah, that is some gap that he's going to have to close down ASAP if he wants a chance at getting into this potential race win or the podium positions. It's going to be about whether Osborne or Lehman start to fight with each other, and I already think Feliz has closed it down quite a bit.
Yeah, that draft really is pretty powerful by at least 5-6 miles an hour down the straights in these cars. Interesting enough, that run to the bus stop is now all concrete now in real life. All asphalt, should say. They paved over all the grass.
I don't like it, but I understand it, especially when you have an incident like Ryan Preece's at the August Daytona race last year. It kind of caught the underside of the NASCAR Next Gen car on the grass and just kind of started lifting from there. But I don't know, I feel like there's other aesthetically pleasing solutions to it as we ride on board with Lehman currently in 3rd, seeking 2nd.
Seems to have not been able to build up any runs to close up to Osborne, though. Almost seems content to just drive with the googly eyes.
Well, this is where it's going to matter, because it's the time you save in pit lane is based on your driving in the first half of the race. Second half, you've kind of made your bed. You're racing with what you got. First half, save as much as you can, but also still be fast.
1 second the gap between first and second, though. Kwok Nim is running.
Yeah, he is doing a very solid job, but he's also using the most amount of fuel of anybody here. I wonder if that's a gap that will come down, maybe swing the opposite way once we do go through the pit lane cycle. 1 second is not that much in the grand scheme of things once they come out of this weird, windy pit exit.
It's been the best of anybody so far, it seems, through the corner exits. And twice over the interval has been so high, coming out of the infield section. Not as good this time at the bus stop. Your points leader and champion previous in SRT Yellow's Jim Feliz. How do you think Jim's feeling back here? Trying to just keep up with the rest of the pack, but just hanging on as the caboose. He nearly lost the pack. Now he's holding on to the pack. They're compressing the pack, in fact, this time.
I don't think he's feeling bad at all. I think he's relishing in the challenge here. And Kwok Nin now is only 7/10 in front of Azrael Osborne. I wonder if something happened there to him last time by, or if it's just, again, that slipstream, once you're within a second. It's almost like DRS as he goes wide there through the International Horseshoe. I feel like he's, at this point, 7/10, that's more than enough to get the slipstream really working once you're down this backstretch.
Yeah, we've seen it really work out for the back straightaway. A bit of puffs of smoke for the in and out. What happened in the infield? The horseshoes, Benatti,
oh boy,
3 wide. Yeah, that wasn't going to work for somebody.
I don't think you can ever make it 3 wide there without having some contact. Obviously, that's exactly what we saw in a big way in a forced retirement early.
Here's why the smoke puffs there in the in and out. Big fast racing, too fast. Into the corner and into a car.
Ends up cutting the tracks almost, as we see another replay going through the snake here in turn 2. Just label as one corner there. Oh, yeah, Bergquist is saying crikey and quite upset probably with the traffic in behind.
Back there after a significant crash at the bus stop in qualifying. That continues to be a struggle there. Right now, the draft is the one thing keeping these second, third, and fourth place drivers with Kwok Nim. We're already almost at the halfway point. This race has been flying by.
Yeah, it absolutely has been flying by, and it's because there's action all over this field. Daytona, like we said, it leads to very close racing. It's not your typical endurance circuit, but it certainly puts on a heck of a show every time we see any bit of racing here. Of course, the 24 hours in January being the biggest.
Absolutely. And usually during that time, January window is perfect in terms of getting preparation practice down. Meanwhile, Joshua Chinsky, he had been running as high as about 8th. He slams the wall.
That's a hard hit. That might be race over for Chinsky. Not having the season he wanted to start off with here, as we're getting close to that halfway point of this race. You have to wonder, after 10 laps that these drivers have run on, when they're going to decide to head down pit lane for fuel. By the way, that gap between Nin and Osborne really opened back up 0.6 of a difference in the last lap alone.
That has been one of the main talking points of the race today, is that run out from the in and out. How much time drivers have struggled to close up. It looks like he's broken the draft, in fact, this time.
He certainly has here, and I don't think a 1.5 seconds is going to get any advantage of the slipstream, so it's going to come down to fuel, or it's going to come down to how much Osborne, Lehman, and Feliz want to help out with each other. It's kind of, again, like a super speedway race. If you're the second group, you can catch up to the first group if you work together. Constant slingshotting.
But the thing is, nobody has made a pass in this group since the start. So what do you do if no one wants to pass each other?
You just keep riding in line, because this is not the entire race, right? You still have 17 minutes to go. You still have to come down pit lane. How much of an advantage does fighting for position get you when it's just going to lead to losing time over the ultimate goal, which is the win of the race?
Good point, indeed. With about 16.5 minutes to go coming up. That second pack, Soleil Sayad, now in the third pack, should say. Right now, back in 13th. And started this race in about 14th. He's one of the drivers dealing with damage right now on the race car.
Yeah, and the damage isn't going to necessarily be that horrible to deal with. There obviously are the corners with higher speeds that you need some aero grip. It's few and far between just in general here as McKay running in 10th, chasing down those two AM class leaders who are still very close together, embroiled in this battle here.
He seems very calm, though. Give him credit there. He's just been riding behind the AM leaders this whole time. Has about a near 2-second buffer over Christopher Rines.
Calm or just really good at acting like he's calm?
We have a pit stop call as our Osborne is coming in this time, Dylan. Soleil Sayad is doing the same.
Yeah, it looks like we're seeing the numbers around 11 or 12 laps might be the most that these drivers feel comfortable with running. We'll have to see how long Osborne is in pit lane. I'm going to assume it's somewhere around 8 seconds. That might be average. He stops in the box. It's only going to be fuel here for that Corvette. He's coming out any second now. Well, this is a long stop. It might be more than I assumed. I don't think I've ever seen drivers stop for more than 10 seconds at any racetrack here, but it seems like that might be a popular decision.
Anyone who's already pitted this race in the past lap or so, 13, 14 seconds the average right now. But it is the closest to about the midway point for many of these drivers, hence why the Florida pit road, Joey Castell completing service and more. Osborne cycled in the midst of the top 14. With how he finished up his pit service 35 seconds back of the leader. And who is that backing up?
That's what I'm trying to find out as well. Oh, that's embarrassing.
That's going to be disqualification. Mark Elliott. Oh. No way. That is disqualification.
Yeah, he's gone. He gone. I've got questions.
You can't go more than that, like 3 or 5 pit stalls, especially at full speed. So
I mean, he was flooring it in reverse.
Anyhow, current battle for 5th. The AM leaders currently positioning themselves for their pit stops. The top 3 are in this time. And here comes the land rush for everyone else.
Yeah, it's looking like 12 laps is the ultimate distance that these drivers can run on a full tank of fuel, or at least the fuel that they have loaded up their vehicles with. We'll see how long. 13 seconds to 14 seconds is the average time, but because there's one fewer lap these drivers have to go, that will probably come down. Clocking in 13.1 seconds. Look at that, Feliz 12.2. He's back in this game.
He actually picked up at least 1 spot, possibly 2 or 3, with Osborne still behind the others. Everyone else coming out of the pit lane right now. For a lot of those that are drivers, including your AM leaders. No change for the AM lead. Provo in front of Deploy, and that race down to the pit lane. Mind you, the green cone set up after turn 1. Pit exit, so it is a bit of a slower roll compared to what some people may think. And right now, Jim Feliz is thinking, I'm in second. Can I close up 2 seconds, though?
I wouldn't be shocked if he can. It's Jim Feliz after all, but Kwok looks like he is just as fast this season as Feliz. Well, we got 12.5 minutes before we figure out what the answer is and who's going to have the chance of winning.
True test time for Feliz's pace here. Has to do it all without draft. No longer has to worry about the fuel tank for this one. But 12 minutes to work with here. Give a shout out to Lehman. He's been quietly keeping it strong in third this whole time. He seems to be in a prime position here for a podium.
What a solid job he's doing, but it can go wrong with just one flick of the wrist, right? With the movement in the steering wheel, you've got some really fast drivers around you. Just got to keep a cool head on in the last 11 and a half.
And right now it looks like Feliz and Lehman saying, okay, it's time for SRT to giddy up and go. They are ditching Osborne and going near bump draft to try and close the deficit.
It's smart, right? The ultimate goal is the win of this race. If they can agree on what to do, then we might have a bit of a race in just a lap or two. I mean, the bump draft is going to be big here at Daytona. I'm excited to see what it does.
If you get within about a second, that's usually the comfort point for draft, give or take, here for this racetrack. The main part of the speedways. Kwok Nim has gained a lot of that time back in this infield, though, that they picked up this lap while working together. That's going to be the main crutch, is that 86 has been the best out of anybody in the infield.
I am willing to bet that the advantage these drivers will pick up with the draft outside of the infield might be a little bit more than the dirty air that they'll be dealing with in the infield.
Good point. They are back to a 2-second full deficit now. Now, no one for Feliz to work with on the bumper. Lehman just doesn't seem to be able to match up bumper to bumper, at least, for half this track.
I feel like the gap came down maybe a tenth there. Here's a replay. Robert Jeffries. Does he just get it? Yeah, he gets really loose. And oh, look at that. It was almost a sympathy spin.
Yeah, just sailed around, got loose on the back end. Meanwhile, Jay Steffi, what happened to him during the pit cycle?
Steffi's not having himself a great race here. Already one mistake earlier on. The SRT blue driver did not set a time in qualifying that was valid. He's just in the box.
Yeah, not seeing anything really per se, but he did end up falling to 35th. What, 9 minutes to work with on the clock. They're estimated to come to 5 laps to go. A tenth or two is not going to do it.
No, not going to do it whatsoever, but if they can give it a couple more laps of an attempt, I think that will be enough to see if they can catch. If they can't, then obviously they're going to start to all fight inside the top 2, 3, 4 spots just to get those positions sorted out.
Right now, the deficit has gained an extra 10. John Provost and Jared Duploy have stayed close, by the way, in their battle. 4/10 the gap for the AM cars. Right now, David Bush III has been trying to work with Duploy. No success. You know what was no success? Lutic Racing, Colin McKenzie getting a little bit door-to-door and then getting turned.
Tempers are going to be a little bit hot late in this race. I think they're going to stay hot. Did that gap come down a bit?
Right now, it's gone up.
Wow. Yeah, it's gone up for sure. I thought it came down a little bit just visually looking, but yeah, it's going to come to a point here where if they can't make some serious strides in this lap or maybe by the next one, they got to just fight with each other.
Kwok Nim up by about an average 2 seconds right now. Caleb Lehman seems very content to just drive and ride behind one of the team's top drivers. Second place is nothing to sniff at, though. It's still a great spot for him so far this season.
Yeah, really solid spot here for Lehman. Osborne, too, I got to say. Osborne's having a really good drive for himself. If he can get maybe in a second, that's going to be pretty important. They gained this time in the infield on Kwok Nim.
Yeah, but again, they have to gain 3/4 a lap to have a true chance to get to the draft and then have a shot for this win.
Yeah, very accurate.
It's not happening.
Justin Bieber said never say never, man.
I was about to say it's not happening right now, but it would require an absolute collapse or a big mistake for the 86. He hasn't had a tire set off all race. So, down to the final 6 minutes or so of this one. You've got two draft battles. You've got this one mainly, and you've got the big one with the amp leaders. Of note,
has been a great battle, by the way, Justin. Sorry, go on.
I was about to say the exact thing. They've stayed close and have actually bundled things up. David Butch III, that car working with them, up 11.
We saw Evan McKay, and he's still sticking with him with both Deploy and Provost. I wonder how much McKay forces the issue. I know he doesn't want to get involved in a class battle, but it's all overall points. That's what everyone gets their points by. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Big opportunities. Let's take a look at what happened with Joseph Carnes. Blink, blink. And eventually the car just went to the grass. We've just had an issue, by the way, for second and AM. Jared Deploy hit the wall. Joseph Carnes, after the blink point, got slide. And nearly hit the wall, just said, I'm just going to park it.
That's a shame. I don't know exactly what happened there, but we were just talking about how good that battle's been. I wonder if McKay got involved.
Did not. From the understanding here, Caleb Lehman's lost a lot of ground now in this battle for second. Right now seems to have the pace to maintain at best. 5 minutes to work with just not enough to pull himself around. A bit bobble. That's going to put him more in the range of Osborne, if anything.
Yeah, that's definitely going to give Osborne a little bit of a run here. I think at this point you got to go for all these positions. 2, 3, 4, it's all up for grabs here.
Surprisingly enough yet, Osborne not going for it yet. Just electing to push. Now he's trying to go for a peak. Doesn't like the run, elects to just work Corvette to Corvette. Now to the outside, Ryan McLaren to Corvette. The flames go out on one side, the brake lights on the other. Lehman holds serve over Osborne.
Yeah, this is now Jim Feli's second place that I almost feel like he's completely gotten for himself, unless he makes a mistake. It's between Lehman and Osborne for that final podium spot, in my opinion here.
Bit of a different race, what we expected coming in, where we possibly were thinking some back and forth a bit. No, it's been full strategy race from the onset for a lot of these drivers today. Jared Deploy, because of his situation, by the way, is all the way back to 11th on track in range of Buck Hamilton within about a second because of his damage. So with under 4 minutes to go, we'll see the replay machine. This is for the big fast racing car again.
Yeah, you're not going fast when you're spinning to a stop.
Hey, the back tires are going fast at that point.
You're not wrong there. That is accurate.
For Kwok Nim, though, this has been mightily impressive to be able to break the draft in fixed setups, mind you, at Daytona is a pretty sizable margin.
I think we're going to have a Jim Feliz Kwok Nin championship battle all year long.
Seems to be the case with the point structure we've seen coming into tonight. Caleb Lehman. Not as much pressure from Osborne. Osborne lost a couple car lengths this past lap.
I feel like Osborne's going to be feeling a little bit hard done. Feels like he might have been able to get a podium spot. Would have been a really nice palate cleanser for how last season went and how last race went. But fourth is not bad at all if that's all he has to settle for.
That's the time lost, about a 10th last time by, in fact, for Osborne compared to Lehman's times. Right now, the SRT Blue machine ready to go googly with those eyes in the podium spots with 2 minutes to work with, expecting the white flag this time by possibly. Let's see what happened on the replay machine.
Fifth place driver Ryan Chandler. Oh, save it! No! Oh, no.
At the back out of it. Running now in 30th. It's one of the drivers in AM class. Can't afford a major mistake at this point. It's points paying time. So, expect the white once again is the estimation. Minute 45 a lap. Lehman's in great defensive position. Osborne struggling the past 2 laps to regain the time.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough now for Osborne to do anything here. We think it's going to, well, we know it's going to go to 1 lap to go here. White flag coming out once Kwok Nim passes the line, and pretty much this is all that Osborne, Lehman, and of course Feliz can do here. Lehman holding on to P3 for now.
White flag is confirmed out. This is the final lap of tonight's race for the fixed series. Lehman still holds on by about 4 or 5 car lengths. Sean Provost still holding on to his class lead by a sizable 3 seconds now. Most of the podium seems secure. Shockingly hard to pass tonight.
I think it'll be a little bit different in the open setup race, if I'm being quite honest, where there are going to be differences in setups for each car. I just wonder if it's too similar tonight for the fixed setups.
Yeah, it's been near identical in terms of a lot of these lap times, mind you, to the field. 1:45.9 is the average for many of these drivers coming to the final stretch. But Crikey Esports' Kwok Nim, he has a few more corners to work with. He has been outright dominant from the onset this evening. Started on the pole, broke the draft. He was so quick in his Corvette. Now by more than 3 seconds has the lead over Jim Feliz. Down to the final 2 corners here, Dylan.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race for Kwok Nin. He is certainly showcasing his talent tonight, and he might be the championship rival to Jim Feliz.
Checker flag waves. Kwok Nin come across the stripe to win in this big series race at Daytona. Does it by 3 seconds, near even over Jim Feliz. Lehman rounds out the podium. Osborne and Kraft the top 5. Sean Provo on the way, meanwhile, and will take the M lead as that goes on. A good recovery for Kraft to the top 5 compared to the points haul for the last race.
Yeah, seriously, a really solid race for Graf. I mean, a lot of drivers needed this result here tonight. It's early in the season, though, but it is going to help out once we start to look at the standings at the end.
Got to deploy despite the damage, still held on to a top 10 overall in second step on the AM podium. And the rest of the field continues to cycle and finish things out here at Daytona. The open side of the card is going to be a very intriguing one with what we just seen.
I still think it's going to be a little bit better in terms of the passing opportunities than that open one. At least that's what I'm hoping for. It was a bit of a downer of a fixed setup race, if I'm being quite honest, but still some close action, some nice strategy play, and now the results.
In the end, it's Nin over Jim Feliz. Lehman, Osborne, and Graf in the top 5, near 10 seconds the difference. Ross Ortino, he finishes 6th after some battling with Graf. Then Andrew Trinket in 7th. Sean Provo, 1st in AM, gets the Florida victory. McKay and Deploy, your top 10 overall. Buck Hamilton gets a top 3 in AM. Brent Thurman, David Bush III, Christopher Rhines, Vincent Genero amongst your top 15. Sayad, Mija, Chinsky, Walden, and Nick Bruno, the top 20. Back in 21st, Colin McKenzie, Andrew Venaro. Then it's Joey Costello, all the way back in 23rd spot after starting up at the tippy top in the class. William Vincent, Brett McCarry, Luke Wallace, the top 26. Then Austin Fink, Dan Algen, Chris Triber, and Sean Mulholland, your top 30. Chandler, Jeffrey, Steffi, Chandler, Berquist, Cochran, Mortz Cabana, Stevanik, and Joseph Carnes, your top 40. Rest of the field, Vittil, DNFs with Mark Elliott, Bonatti, Bombeck, Felix Feliz, Nathan Jennings, barely made it a lap without having trouble. That's a look top to bottom at the running order here tonight, and what was an intriguing one. And in the end, it's Kwoknim who will pick up the win here tonight. He now joins us in the broadcast booth after picking up the victory here by 3 seconds at Daytona. First things first, how are you feeling about the win here tonight?
Feeling good. It's been a very long time since I got the podium, but Daytona was a really fun track in the Corvette.
About to say, you pulled away from the pack at Daytona, a track known for being a draft pack. What was going through your mind as you were the best in the infield and managed to break the toe before pit stops?
I just knew I had to get away. I think on during the whole race, I know I had to get like a good turn in and exit to kind of just break away from the toe. In the beginning, I was a little bit worried, but as soon as I saw that gap of 1.4 seconds, I kind of just kept doing my thing and just cruising around.
So now, what's going through your mind knowing that you're likely going to be one of the championship favorites with Jim Feliz? What goes to mind now that it seems to be you two as the front runners early?
Well, the Corvette is still a new car to me, so I'm not sure how well it will do on the other tracks because it's really good on the straights. But I always want to have a good battle and good season because the fun times are the battles. It's not taking the lead or increasing the gap. The battles is what I enjoy the most. So hopefully me and Osborne can really duke it out towards mid-season or at the end of the season for the championship. Any
shout-outs you'd like to give before we let you go?
Shout out to you guys, to PRL and all the drivers. It seems like the front pack was keeping clean, so keep that up and let's have a clean race throughout the season.
Kwoknim coming away with the victory tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a good night.
You too. Kwoknim coming away with the first step on the podium. Jim Feliz got the second step. He's with Dylan Coyle.
Yeah, Jim, it's not necessarily a bad way to start the season, a win and a second place finish. Is this exactly what you kind of wanted going into the first two to defend that championship?
Yeah, I mean, no complaints here about a first and second place. I think that's a great result today, and yeah, had a pretty interesting race there. A lot of fuel saving, very tactical, but tried to work together with Caleb, Israel, but I don't think any of us had anything for Kwok tonight, so he was just absolutely flying out there, and yeah, somehow even managed to save a little fuel from the front, I guess, because he was pretty quick in the pits too.
Now, when it comes to that first stint where you're kind of fuel saving, you saved a second in pit lane. Were able to leapfrog pretty much the last Lehman, as well as Osborne. There was that part of the strategy you wanted to beat them in the pits.
Yeah, I mean, kind of running in P4 there, and being part of a train at Daytona, it's really tough to pass, and if you do, you often just kind of break up those trains. So a lot of times it makes sense to just kind of sit in, work together where you can, and save as much fuel as possible. So yeah, that was pretty much the game plan tonight.
All right, Jim. Well, listen, it's always fun seeing you run up front, but do you feel like it's all in the qualifying for you? This talent up front is obviously so high, but if you don't have a good qualifying run, is there really a shot to win in shorter races like this?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying can kind of make or break your race. I do want to give a shout out to Brett Thurman, my teammate on SRT Yellow. He gave me a really good tow in qualifying, and kind of helped put me at the sharp end of the field there. Not quite at the very front, but I think it was a good showing tonight to end up P2.
Once again, Jim Feliz coming away with the second step on the podium in this one. Third step on the podium went the way of Caleb Lehman. Caleb First things first, the googly eyes getting on the podium. How are you feeling?
Feeling really good. Decided to switch it up to the McLaren this week, and it's much more competitive than the Mustang, so I'm feeling pretty happy about it.
So, how would you describe what was going through the mind during this race tonight?
It was pretty stressful trying to stay connected to the top two, and in the pits, me and Jim, we jumped as Raya, and I think I overfueled. I think I put in way too much fuel, so Jim unfortunately got the jump on me, and I just couldn't catch back up, but I'm really happy with P3.
The next time out for the series, it's going to be an interesting time because it's Misano. Your thoughts on one of the newer tracks on the block?
Raced it last season in LMP2. I really like it. Some of the technical tracks seem to suit me a little bit, so I think I'll have some pace, but we'll just kind of have to see how it all shakes out.
Well, on that note, Caleb, thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the podium.
Thank you much. Have a good night, guys.
Caleb Lehman, a top 3 run. Sean Provost coming away with the AM win. He's with Dylan.
Yeah, really solid job there, Sean. It felt like you were in the midst of a battle for that AM win all race long. Kind of take us through it for those who didn't quite see what was going on back there.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I got a great start. I got lucky with the start with some other people being held up, and me and Jared, shout out to Jared, he's a good friend of mine, we kind of battled the whole race. We switched places a few times, and Evan was in the mix with us, and we were just doing our best to hold each other off and keep it on track. I don't know what to say. It was a great race.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it from what we were able to see. Something happened at the end there, though, in that AM class battle, and it kind of separated you guys a bit.
Yep, I think Jared came in and was getting close to trying to take the pass. I think every time out of the butt stop, he was, encroaching on me, so to speak. And on T1, I think he tried to go for a move, and we were trying to give each other space, and I think he just touched the wall there and lost a couple places, which is super unfortunate. He had a great race, and he deserved to be right there with me, if not beating me.
Well, at the end of the day, you do get the AM class win, but it's overall points. You think you can take the fight for the rest of the year and potentially win it?
We'll see. I'm worried about the Mustang, honestly. Last week wasn't the greatest showing for me or that car, but I'm going to see what I can do to turn it around and get back up to the top of the points.
All right, Sean. Appreciate it very much. Congratulations on the AM class win.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Justin, it's always great fun talking to the winners of both classes and the podium finishers overall. It's going to be a fun open race in just a bit.
Yes, indeed. So, on that note, the next time out for this series will be Misano for the fixed side. We'll see how things play out then. But Daytona is still the track to be at because right now the PRL's GT3 Sprint Series gets all set to go racing. Now they take center stage here for tonight's festivities here at the racetrack. So far, an interesting night of racing from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway. We'll see how tonight now goes for these drivers. Justin Prince doing Coyle with you once again. Augustus Cisneros, your producer for this evening's coverage. As we get ready for this series' second race, same schedule as what we've seen for the fixed side, but Carl Modov was the one who put up a dominating run last time. Gregory Hobson rounding out the top 3 with Dominic Olivier in point tallies. Kevin Cantino, Rob Clark, your top 5 entering the day in the pro standings. Chris Sowan also amongst the top 7 with Nick Lutig as well, showing good speed. The M side, this also shows flashes of interestingness, to say the very least. It was an interesting one, to say the least, in pro last time out.
Yeah, for sure. It was a lot of fun to watch that race at what was it? Fuji we were at last time out. And Devin Brock, of course, has a slim advantage here. AM class, because it is overall points that we do look at the standings for, it does tend to get a little bit more congested throughout all the positions because they're typically running more in the midfield. So fewer points on hand, fewer points to gain and lose as the races continue on.
Mind you, the team side, also an interesting dynamic. Delta Sport, they're having a lot of their open wheel drivers gaining some experience in this season. They start off with the points lead over Sopec Precision Racing Gold, SCR1, and then Sopec Precision Racing Silver, and Black Eagles. Once your top 5 in the team standings coming in, pretty big spread on team points.
Yeah, for sure. There is a bigger spread than we're used to seeing after just one race, but Delta Sport was just that good last time out. Some really solid racing there, some teamwork that was just impressive as could be. And I'm excited to see what this starting grid is in just a few minutes. I believe we have a little bit left in qualifying, or correct me there?
Yes, we do have a couple more minutes, 5 minutes to be precise in the session. And with some of the drivers on vacation tonight, some of the drivers having different feels of the racetrack, Rob Clark is the one that leads all drivers on the racetrack. He has it by 2/10 right now in the 144 flats, near 1 second quicker qualifying laps for the front.
Yeah, really, really impressive for Clark. And what's even more surprising is he's in the Porsche. The top 3 right now, Porsche, Lambo, Porsche, Corvettes 4th and 5th. If the Porsches can win this one, again, it's down to skill, but also down to now you can really mess with the cars in the open setup.
Interesting enough, the top AM driver, 19th, Chris Stewart. The second best, Kyle Robertson in 24th. In other words, a lot of these pro teams very dialed in, a lot of team spread, so to speak, it seems. But a lot of the teammates trying to work together. SimCity trying to do so. Brandon Tabone trying to work with Martin Crisp. 144.8 for Crisp last time, but 144.3 for the 22.
Ooh. Almost looked like they went into turn 1 side by side right there, which is going to slow both of them down if that is the case.
And so this is where things are expected to get a little bit more interesting, at least in your opinion. A little bit more fuel tank distance, but open sets, so a lot more flexibility on what the drivers want to put in the car to find those speed bits.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes into play. It's just the flexibility there. It's, yeah, a bigger tank by 10%, but it's also a 5-minute longer race. It kind of equals out maybe a couple more laps than on that same ratio of what we got last race, 12 laps last race. Probably looking at, I don't know, 15 laps you can get from a fuel tank in this one. But it is, to me, the intrigue comes from that open setup here. Usually I'm enjoying the fixed setup races more, but based on what we saw with just, it was difficult to pass. There wasn't that much different. I want to see the different strengths of these cars more on display here.
Yeah, especially what we've seen with near Corvette domination. Aiden Young jumping a second, meanwhile. Speaking of Corvettes, it's the Fiercely Ford and Goin Racing entry, who's able to jump up the boards here in a train of Corvettes.
Yeah, that's surprising. Just late in that we kind of aren't getting too many Corvettes that are up there as fast as he, but good to see right there. Crisp and Co. continue to swap positions, try to get the best speed they can.
Yeah, this is where the teamwork dynamic comes into play. Crisp, a lot of experience with SimCity Racing here, seems to be trying to really help make sure they stay together, because that's the critical thing. If they do not have teammates here, that's going to make it difficult. Gregory Humpson right now in 3rd in session in his Lambo.
Yeah, doing a really solid job. Lambo, I want to see more competition in that regard from all the manufacturers here. And again, you get to see the strengths more.
Got a good slipstream off J.R. Williams, 27th in Unit Sim Sports. This time a 144.4, but no change in positioning from that qualifying lap. So down to the final few moments here, what are you keeping your eye on for these drivers now with the open setup here that we haven't discussed about yet?
Well, I think it's just going to be how they can set this car up with the different conditions. It seems like the sun is a little bit peeking out more than what we saw in that fixed race, which is obviously going to change the complexion of how these tires handle on the surface.
How so, in your opinion?
To me, it's all about trying to deal with the slick track conditions. Again, that Daytona sun, that Florida sun can be really, really powerful. And if the track, with those shadows forming right there, as you see, does not get too dark, too much into the night, you're going to see some drivers through the infield section sliding a little bit more, especially when trying to go into turn 1. And, of course, right after that kink into turn 5, those will be more of the difficult sections to get the car slowed down for, and getting on the power out of turn 6 back onto the banking. If it's slick, you're going to have to deal with that wear from the rear tires a little bit more.
Checkered flag is out of the racetrack. A lot of drivers still getting themselves closed up here. Looks like most drivers have completed their lap times, but not all. Hence the quick stall around Matt Sheriff. Just put in a 1:45.8 to close out runs. Gregory Hobson closing up runs on track. Connor Wagner, David Holland, and more. So, interesting session, Dylan. And in the end, Rob Clark's time does not hold. Gregory Hobson takes it at the line.
How about that? The Lambo is on the pole. Unbelievable. Waiting until the last moment by 11 thousandths of a second. I mean, that's a championship point, too.
As one of the final qualifiers in the field, too. That's going to really help the 115's case for this race. Gregory Hobson for Delta Sport. He is on the pole. Rob Clark for Solpec Precision Racing Gold in second. 11 1,000ths, that difference. Aiden Young, Kevin Kent, your top 4. Allen and Crisp, the top 6. Back in the 7th spot, Marc-Andre Garon. Brandon DeBone rounds out the top 8. An open wheeler, Connor Wagner in 9th. Jeremy Gonzalez in 10th. Arnaud Jeunesse gets bumped down to 11th. Dominic Olivier in 12th spot. Jack Hedgecox along with Chris Sowan. Then it's Eric Palacio, and alongside him is Lindquist. Dickinson and Tillanu round out the top 18. Hedgecock's one of the top AM drivers in the field tonight. Kevin Simpson alongside Ethan Bassesford. Then Carollo, one of the AM drivers, he's alongside Chris Stewart. He started off the session top of the board, did not last. Aaron Beaver alongside Fernando Yaquez in 24th. Then David Holland alongside Jer Williams, Kyle Robertson, and Dakota Knapp. Rounding at the top 30, Boisvert and Muller. Back in 31st, Lanning and Campbell. Miles Brown in the drive trainer entry alongside Devin Brock. Then Joshua Spears and Drake Smith back in 36. Noah Anderson, David Marrera. Then it's Chris Stouffer, Jason Hodgson, Ryan Reeves, and Jason Finch back in 42nd. Your last to set times tonight, Rep and Sheriff, Victor Quoto, and Michael Fowler did not set clean lap times, Dylan, in the session.
They can move through the field quickly, but it's not going to be the easiest thing to do. Track temperature 83 degrees Fahrenheit, 706, so we're not sunset yet, but the sun is definitely going down in this Floridian Stummers. Lake Lloyd is looming in the background here. Wonderful track. Daytona International Airport is right behind the backstretch here. I've flown in there a few times. It's cool to see the track outside your window. It's also unfortunate when you've got the other side of that plane window.
Yeah, there's not much else on the other side, we'll be frank. But it's 7:06, near identical conditions the last time. A bit windy here. Your keys to win this one for the sprint side.
It's just the same exact deal as in the fixed side. You want to stay with that group up front as soon as possible. Don't let them get out to a second and a half away. That's the biggest point I think we saw. If a group gets spaced out by a second and a half, it's going to be really difficult to catch back up unless they start infighting themselves. So stay as close as you can to each pack so you can kind of leapfrog your way and slipstream your way through it. You don't want to be without a slipstream here, unless you can just outpace everybody in first place.
Got Robertson trying to warm up the tires a little bit in the heart of the field. He'll start 27th overall. He's going to have a long way to go to make it up to these drivers. So, interesting dynamics. The inside line led by Corvettes. The outside line led by Porsches. Who's your pick?
Well, I think it's still, for me, going to have to be Rob Clark or Aiden Young. If Hovesen can win, I'd love to eat my crow and see a Lamborghini get to the front of this field and stay there.
A sea of different manufacturers migrate their way towards the front, but tonight, we'll see which one takes the W. Green, green, green. Later start compared to the other race. We're underway. Already Hovesen single file for the in and out. Lot of pressure for second. Aiden Young, he tries to wrap the bottom, makes contact, had to lean on the 95. Clark gave him a break.
Yeah, certainly gave him a break right there. No need to force things early on, but you can't win a race in the first corners, but you can certainly lose them, and there's some smoke in the back. Lots of it. Lots of cars off.
A lot of incidents back there as they continue to scatter across the racetrack. Take a look at what happened there in a little bit as much of the field gets themselves swallowed up into that one. But some of the notables, Jeremy Gonsalves and Connor Wagner, were in that incident. Gregory Hovesen coming out to the oval now. Seems settled out to try and run 7/10 already in the Lambo.
Impressive. Really impressive. It was because of some side-by-side racing between Clark and Young there, but hey, let's see how far Hovesen can get out in front and stay there. Of course, the slipstream is bringing it down right now.
Yeah, going to reduce it by 2-3 tenths. A little bit more quicker through the bus stop right now is the Lambo. Rob Clark. See if he's going to be able to keep things going here. But let's see the replay machine as Jeremy Gonsalves amongst the many.
That was just a mess. So many cars, and I mean, I'm sure he gets hit again. Yep.
Yeah, not everyone could dodge, and wow, some of those running near last got involved too. A lot of bad luck there. So Delta Sport leading the first lap overall, though. Will we see some swap arounds? That's going to be a good question for this one. The AM leader, by the way, Jack Hedgecock's up from 13th to 10th already with a buffer.
Impressive. Can still continue moving up through the field. AM class is right now a little bit spaced out in that regard, with Hedgecock's being in P10, Chris Stewart in 14th. He was one position back of Hedgecock's from where he started, but Jason Allen, as we ride on board in that Corvette, he's staying with the front of the field. By the way, Hovesen, that gap did not really extend through that infield section from the last time we were here, so it's going to get down a little bit closer, maybe half a second by the time we get to the bus stop.
Yeah, now we'll see how this interval plays throughout this entire race here today. Also of note, some of the bigger movers. Jeunesse went up 4. Emmett Lindquist is already up to 8th in this choo-choo train.
That's impressive as can be. Lindquist in that 40 machine, just kind of biding his time. but the top 5 have broken away right now. I don't see anybody else unless there is a complete burst of speed from 6th on back that even has a shot to win this race, to be quite honest with you. It's going to take some unbelievable driving, but once you lose a slipstream, you're almost toast.
Lindquist just set the fastest lap in the heart of the field, too. Good shuttle to him. There's Oliveira and Janest, meanwhile. Right now, another pack is forming. They are losing touch to the top 5.
Yeah, not good. Not good whatsoever. But hey, a top 5 or fighting for a top 10 spot is still fighting for a top 10 spot in a field of 40-plus vehicles. So I still think that's some good things to be happy with. And at the end of the day, they all pay a lot in the point standings.
Very much so. So, Chris Sowan holding on to the 9th position right now. He's doing pretty solid. Had a great first round last time out.
Yeah, he did have a pretty solid run. As we get a replay here, Robertson. Uh-oh. That's a mess. And then I wonder if they were unrelated.
Yeah, hard contact to the drivetrain or entry. Something's not going great for the green machine. Leaders closing up a fair bit now. It took 3-4 laps, but they're finally back within solid range.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot more interesting because the different strengths of these cars are on complete display. You want to exploit those strengths, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
And now Rob Clark trying to make a move. Blocked up, and they elect to go fuel save. Not so much Aiden Yun. He goes aggressive.
Yeah, I got very aggressive right there. Young wants to just keep on keeping on. Rob Clark in P3 right now. That's going to allow Cantoni to get back closer. Hovison, he had a chance to break free. He just hasn't been able to.
Yeah, not as easy to break away, it seems, compared to last time with the open set, as you predicted. Cantonio, he's ready to try and make some pounces, too. He's got a team lineup here. Now a 3-4 with Clark.
My goodness. This is exciting. Oh, this is fun. This is a train of 5 cars. All of them can win this race easily. And can we also talk about the fact that it's a Lambo, a Chevy, and a Porsche all in your podium spots right now?
Yeah, I agree. But hey, lead error is king sometimes. Seems to be the case. Dominic Olivier, he leads pack number 2. That's one of the Ferraris over in Audi at the moment. Already Lindquist grouping up on them, wanting to gain more.
Watch back here with Dominic Olivier, and he's in his own group of 6 cars here, with Hedgecock's, of course, the AM class leader, the 5th of these 6 vehicles, but all of them are racing for the same points all overall, so that's something interesting to keep an eye out here as this race goes on. A potential dive, a look into turn 1, nothing going on there as Hovison, Young, Clark, Cantonio, and Allen still continue to do battle for P1.
Yun seems to be the one that seems to be most aggressive. He's trying diamond lines. He's trying to find everything possible to maybe think about making this bumper to bumper for the race lead.
That tells me that he's not too concerned about fuel saving or trying to save those tires, conserve them for the length of this race.
Yeah, the problem is going to be just closing up that cold right now, it seems. Seems to be a massive hurdle for everybody, whether we've raced in the fixed or now the sprint. Still about 8 minutes down here. Gap is half a second right now at the moment. The Fiercely Ford machine still gaining tons of time by 2/10 in the draft.
It's Quite exciting, is it not? Just seeing all these cars. It's like a game of chess right now because all of them have the speed. You have a feeling that if Young gets the lead, he's not going to easily get repassed because of that aggression. Is this a case of Hoverson just holding up Young and the rest of the pack, or is this a case of just great defense and all of them are running that same kind of speed?
Well, it's a good question. The defense has been strong here. Yun looks like he wants to take it offensive. Not close enough. Took a peek outside, but he stays in line instead. It seems like Yun's got the speed to get there. It's just, when does he decide to go? There's still 30 minutes.
Right, and I do really wonder if he does have that speed to get, you know, into P1, which obviously he does. What happens when he gets it? Does he start to just pull away from the rest of this field? Does that open up the door for more aggression from third on behind? I'm not sure.
Up 11, by the way, Fernando Jaquez in the field. Up 10, J.R. Williams. One, some of your biggest movers for the front runners. A lot of people slicing and dicing their way through this pack so far tonight, as there is Jaquez.
Yeah, a lot better action in the first quarter of this race than in the fixed series race. You know, it's funny. You can go faster with a custom setup that fits your race style, but also race setups are all about compromise, right? You're going to gain more in one end of the track or in one set of corners than you would in maybe another set. You might hurt yourself in one set of corners if you try and help yourself in another set of corners. But it's all about compromise. It's all about trying to maximize your overall race pace, and different cars react differently when in traffic versus in clean air, and I think we're seeing a great battle between three manufacturers here in the top three.
And now, Young getting defensive. Rob Clark thought about a move to get back to second, doesn't take it. Yeah, this is the big dynamic difference. Not every car is the same, mind you, manufacturer-wise. The BOP, a big conversation point we touched upon a couple weeks ago. The little nuances and being able to craft those differences so critical in these types of cars.
Yeah, and it really comes down to, you know, extra weight, fuel capacities, extra... Oh, look at that, that's side-by-side in the kink. That's almost undoable. And look at that, a dive to the inside here in turn 5. They are fighting like it's the last lap.
That really shuffled Hitchcock's buffer away. That is Marc-Andre Caron that wants to make the outside work for the in and out. Not going to do that. So that has opened up the need for Jack Hitchcock to push the tempo again. He had a 5-car buffer. It's down to just 1 between him and Chris Stewart.
Yeah, and, you know, going side by side lets others catch up and lets others get away from you. Look at this collection, this gaggle of GT3 machinery. They haven't been able to catch up to the front pack, but you have a feeling like it doesn't matter. They're going to still race like they're going for the win here.
Right now, Jason Allen, meanwhile, just hanging on to the back of the pack. Up at the front of the pack. Here we go. Yun's taking a peek. Finally getting at least the lawn side, but again, nothing doing.
Here's the question. If Young gets that, does he maybe just pull away? I'm surprised that he wasn't even a little bit more aggressive based on how aggressive he's been to start off here. It starts an accordion effect, right? He can't make the move, but he tried it. So everybody else in behind now has some open doors to maybe go into and just walk on through. As you see all the different lines being taken here through that horseshoe. Drivers just trying to figure out where they can make passes because there's so many positions right in front of you. It's just you got to go one by one without hurting your chances of making the next move.
Yeah, all lockstep, those top 5 still in all those moves right now. How long do you think they can go this race on fuel?
I think 15 laps. That's kind of what I think. 15 laps. We saw 12 laps in the last race. I don't think anyone got to 13. There's 10% more fuel capacity, but obviously they run a little bit differently. I would say 15 is a good point to go at.
They're almost at 15 estimated laps to go right now, in fact. So they've quickly gotten themselves through some of these laps here calmly and collectively. No major pushing for the Sprint Series so far. And
Except in the first time we went past the horseshoe.
Yes, that's the big one. Rob Clark seems ready to try and push Yun to close the gap.
Wow. Oh, look at this. Move to the outside here, going into one.
Aiden Yun having to go the long distance around here. Not able to make it stick.
Switch back?
No.
No.
But it's made pretty clear. Gregory, if you keep him in the preferred groove, is going to play solid defense there. You'll have to be perfect from the outside if you want a shot.
I just think because turn one is such a high angle corner, right? You get a really you really have to turn that wheel to the left, and of course you got to keep turning it left to get through the S going through turn two. It's so hard to make a move if you're not carrying an exorbitant amount of speed on the outside and just throwing it in there. If you're maybe half a car length to the outside in the braking zone, you're not going to be side by side unless the car on the inside makes a mistake getting back on throttle.
Some good points there with 25 minutes already to go underneath that mark, in fact. It's almost like a testing point here, too. Just getting a feel to make sure what's going to work in this build this time.
Another idea on that mark, Justin, is that these drivers, they're trying to see what works for the end of this race, too. It's not just about, trying to get a feel for this build that is relatively new, but they're also seeing what moves work and where the speed is in race situations. It doesn't hurt to try it early on. If you make a mistake in the beginning, albeit it not being a big one, you can come back from it.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the chances, but no, Janest trying to fight hard in that battle for sixth. They are not letting off easy in this battle. They are trying to swap a lot.
That is some awesome racing right now. I'm loving this right here.
That's Garon again, trying to get a little aggressive. Doesn't work that time to the first horseshoe, but Lindquist still wants the top nine here. They have been, at this point, they're not even attempting to even close that gap. They've settled completely on we're never going to get there, it almost looks like.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the move. You're 4 seconds back. There's going to be some, it's kind of like a highway, right, where you have that accordion effect where one driver is a little bit slower in front, the next has to go on the brakes a little bit earlier, the next has to do the exact same thing, and all of a sudden all the speed that you gain through the slipstream kind of disappears in an instant going into the bus stop or going into turn one. I think their best bet, who's going to win this battle for sixth.
That battle for the race lead, still lockstep. And still no changes with 0.3 the difference. Yun seems pretty close to trying our peak around again. Yet again, in draft distance.
He's peaking. And he's going to try and get a bigger arc into the corner. Might get to the right rear wheel with a much bigger arc. This might work. This might work here. But, no. He wasn't. Okay, so did you see what happened there? I know it wasn't the best angle, but Hovesen kind of let off the throttle a little bit more, so Young was not able to get down right in line behind him, forced him to kind of take his foot off the throttle just a little bit. Some really smart defensive driving there.
That's why he's one of the top drivers in this series this season and for the past few seasons. Very high IQ from Gregory Holmson. As we take a look at Olivier and company, Garon is now up to 7th overall in this race. Huge shout out to Jack Hedgecox. He stayed right where he needs to be to try and control this AM win.
Yeah, and I will say, even though Hedgecox is there, so is Chris Stewart, right? He's in this group as well. Stewart's obviously got a little bit more to go here, and with pit stops looming, things can change in an instant. So let's see where he gets to at the end of this first stint after the pit cycle. If he's still in this spot in stint 2, heck yeah, he's put himself in a perfect position. And that's all because of what he did in the first half here.
Yeah, Ed had a great qualifying run to boot that really set up the position. Track position is king here after all. We've seen that come into play many times. There's a look at Jason Allen. His SCR2 entry. Still the caboose of those top 5. Still just cannot find any way to leapfrog.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, at this point, see what you can do in fuel save mode. The situation will change completely. You can gain yourself a couple tenths of an advantage by not having to fuel up as much in the pits.
Indeed. Rob Clark kind of from the top 5 in the points coming in. Right now, positions up pretty solidly. We'll see where things go once the drops settle in as the season goes on here, Dylan. Clark quietly could be one of your championship major threats.
Yeah, it's not necessarily just about the wins, right? It's about the consistency throughout the course of the season. If Clark is able to put in continuous podium efforts, there's no reason he can't be a championship threat. The problem is we have seen in this series a couple guys who just completely run away with win after win, second place here, win for the next 3. If that doesn't happen, if he can consistently fight for a podium, he's definitely a sneaky championship threat.
Just past the halfway point of this race, by the way. So far, Gregory has led every single lap. This second battle pack, not done stopping the battles. A lot of cars choosing to go black and neon for their paint schemes in that group.
It's easy to see.
Yeah,
I like the neon schemes.
opposite of camo there. And
I can't see.
yeah, no move for Yun this time. Just about at that pit stop window you were talking about. They have an estimated 11 laps to go. They've already ran 12 laps this race.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a maximum of 3 more laps here. Maybe 2 laps before we see them into the pits. I also think it's going to be a strategy, right? If you think you can get better with an undercut, I think some of these drivers, I don't think all 5 of these drivers in the top of the field are going to come in at the same time. I think some of them are going to try and undercut here.
Who do you think might be trying to save the most, or rather better yet, trying to get themselves positioned for the undercut?
Kevin Cantonio or Jason Allen, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, Antonio's been surprisingly quiet though tonight.
But he's been there, right? At the end of the day, that's all you need to do for the time being. He's there. He can make something happen, but no need to force anything until the second part of this race.
Indeed. Still, now there's a change up with Garon after all that pushing. He's gotten to the head of the group. Can Garon hold on to the lead car in this pack though? Because Olivier seems to be pretty much ready to try and pounce back pretty soon.
I feel like for sure this pack is a little bit more rambunctious than the other one because there's not necessarily as much to gain, so they don't feel like they have to be as careful here as we look at the Cantonio and Jason Allen draft connection in the slipstream. Was there just a potential move? Hoverson and Young, this was the closest Young has been to making a switchback work. He's got some more momentum going into the horseshoe here.
He is going for the move. He wants the lead inside. Not going to make a grip. Nearly spun it, in fact.
Hovesen almost ran completely wide off track right there. Might have gotten a little bit of a dirt pickup, but he still holds first. That just allows everybody else to get closer in.
Young's getting a little bit impatient here, right before pit stop windows. He wants to go with this draft pole, but no place to make the pass. How does he try and do it though? Because the outside's not working. Dive bombing's not going to work. What's going to work for him, you think?
I'm surprised he's being as aggressive right here with just a couple laps to go before pit stops happen. I mean, I'm also surprised he hasn't been more aggressive, right? The quantity of the aggressive moves have not necessarily matched up with the quality of those moves. It's kind of like expected goals in soccer or hockey, right? He's not making as many pass attempts that look like they're high possibilities, but he's making a lot of them.
Great point once again, as coming around to 15 minutes to go. 14 laps for the stint this time by. No duckins this time. 15 laps the total next time around. So here comes Jan. No lift. Now it hits the brakes. This time not close enough to even take a lunge.
No, but you can kind of see what he's thinking of doing. It's just there's not enough space to do a switchback. Look at that by Simpson. Oh, that wasn't Simpson.
Yeah, that was Simpson into the grass after a huge lunge and then a park of the bus, so to speak, in the corner.
Yeah, that was never going to be on. Actually, it was a great lunge, a great move, and it just almost looked like Simpson just kind of got spooked.
So now, we're right about that window you were talking about, under 10 estimated laps to work with here. And Gregory has been burning the most fuel out of anybody in theory as the lead car. It's going to be very, very intriguing how the Delta is going to be here because, well, with everybody else in the draft saving fuel per se with the tow, this is going to be a pretty interesting one via the seconds in the box.
100%. And the fact that no one else has gone down pit lane in this race for the most part tells me that we might have another lap or so of fuel. We'll have to see, but if anyone goes into the pits now, I would not be shocked whatsoever. 15 is kind of where I expected it to be. It could be 16, it could be 17. But let's see. Does anyone decide to go down pit lane right now? Looks like all of them are staying out. No, the top two are coming in for the undercut. That's surprising.
Gregory Hobson going hard and aggressive into the pit stall, so those precision racing entries stay out and go for the overcut.
Interesting. Let's see if that works here. They've saved enough fuel where they've been in the slipstream the entire time. It's kind of what I was saying. Cantonio's been quiet, but he's been there, right? So he has a chance here.
Alrighty, the driver's flooring it in the pit stalls, and Olsen got a great pit stop. In fact, got a better one than Aiden Young as the rest of the field races their way out of their pit stalls here. Jason Allen gained a lot of time too in his Corvette.
Wow, as we look at the pit times, I mean, that's quite substantially different all throughout the field. By a second here or a few tenths here. I mean, realistically, Hovesen versus Young, that is such a huge detriment. In lane time, 1.5 seconds quicker for Hovesen over Young.
Clark and Cantonio now working together. Going to be potentially their in lap here with everyone else ducking down. Garon, Hedgecox, Dickinson, the only other drivers not to come down there. Great to be able to save the extra lap on the fuel. They're going to be able to save a little bit of time in the box, but can they make it work on the track?
That's the question. They haven't been fighting. They're teammates. And look at that, a huge kind of dive in there and a lot of speed on the outside. You wouldn't see that usually. Look how close he's trying to take as straightforward as a line into the pits as possible. I don't think there's anything against the rules of just going through the boxes in this series, but that is interesting.
And that in turn puts Cantonio ahead technically for the time being. The rest of the drivers who need a pit are in. Cantonio, much better pit stop too compared to Clark.
Does Cantonio take the lead here? I think he's getting the lead of this race.
Still on the limiter until right now. Here comes Hobson. The race on pit road, it is going to be Cantonio. Cantonio to the lead.
There you go. There you go. So I did think that those two would do a different strategy, but I thought they would maybe do an undercut. It made more sense to do an overcut. They've been saving more fuel than the rest of them. And because of that, Cantonio is into P1.
For how long is going to be the question. It's the first time Gregory Hobson has had to deal with a opponent in front of him. Everybody has pit in the field. Edgecox gained a spot net on the overall pylon in the pit cycle. And those top two are running away already by nearly a full second.
Wow. Yeah, it's on now. Young completely ruined his race by that long pit stop time. Jason Allen back there as well. It's a battle for the win with the top three.
Disappointing for Young. Could have been much higher up. Instead, it comes down to pit strategy in his case. But with 10 minutes to work with and 6 estimated laps to go, the top two look to battle. So you see everyone work their way through that bus stop chicane and try and sort out, can they push? Now it's time for Gregory Hobson to do exactly that. Within 2/10, he wants his lead back. Already taking a flare out to the right. Cantonio goes defensive.
This is going to be a big swap over move for the momentum, but because of that extra little bit of turning to the left, it's just not as big as Hovesen would want. I do think he gained a little bit more there, though not nearly enough. Here's another thing to think about. Remember we were talking about, does Aiden Young have more speed than anybody else in this race? If he got into P1, would he run away with it? Well, he does have that clear track in front of him.
Oh, hold on. We have our AM leader falling down the pylon. Chris Stort just took it. The 24 of Hedgecox just came off the track in the in and out, Dylan. We've had a class change for the lead. Chris Stort now leading by a significant margin.
Well, remember what I was saying. It's all about what happens in that second half of the race. He's put himself in a good position to hold it, but he just does not have it now. Made a huge mistake. Chris Stort in 12th. No other AM class driver in the top 16 except for him.
He's in a prime position. But now, Gregory Hobson. He looks to try and get all the pace out of it for Delta Sport. Gained a lot of time, better to the bus stop this time.
Oh yeah, he's going to have this speed to potentially go side by side going into turn one. The real thing is, if you can get down the inside going into turn one, that's massive, but you know Cantonio is going to be blocking it off entirely here. Will Hovesen have to go around the outside? Look at that. He wants that spot so badly. I think you can be under the double yellow lines here. Yes, you can. You can't do that in the oval. You can't do that here, and that was some major blocking.
Significant blocking, in fact. Gregory Hobson not able to make the run. Rob Clark, new fastest lap behind him.
This is, again, good. It's been good the whole race, but it is just exciting. I feel like, you know, this battle for first, it's only 3 drivers right now. If Young can somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat, that would be interesting. But he's embroiled in his own battle with Jason Allen. So 3 podium spots, all of them, I just don't know where it's going to end up. I feel like Hovesen has the most speed, but Cantonio doing a great defensive job.
A brilliant one at that. And now, how long does this last in terms of this chess match? 7 minutes to work with, 4.5 laps to go. And Gregory Hobson's been much better bus stop. That seems to be the bread and butter. He's not afraid to lunge that car in that corner.
Yeah, but if he can't get it down the inside going through the tri-oval, then really what's the point? The other thing is, that's not the corner you want to make a move at, but we're late enough in this race where that desperation is going to have to be key. Look at that, another good run through there and a little bit of a wiggle coming out of the bus stop. Could this be the move before we get to the tri-oval?
Still trying to get it lined up through the gears. 4 estimated laps to work with. Gregory Hoveson, this time, not making the move. He goes bump draft. He wants to make it a 2-car tango. And that's an interesting one. Trying to maybe reduce the chances of a teammate to help.
That's a good point that you're bringing in here. It's a sandwich right here for Hoveson. He doesn't want to, if he loses that spot, if he tries to go to the outside and then Clark goes down the inside of him, that's almost a spot that he completely loses. If he does that, to me, it's race over for him, for Hoveson, because you've just let the teammate on through. Here's a bit of a wide arc for Cantonio, almost opened the door completely for Hoveson.
That could have been pretty substantial if that stuck there. Instead, it doesn't. That allows Gregory Hoveson to have a better infield this time. 5 minutes to go. Coming to 3 estimated laps to go. They have really gapped the rest of the field by 5 seconds, this pack.
Yeah, no kidding. What a race, man. This has been so enjoyable to watch.
It's been a chess match between these drivers. Now it's about time to see who gets checkmated. Both of them had problems. Gregory Hoveson, slow down.
This potentially opens up the door, yeah, to Rob Clark. So Hoveson has just given it up completely. This is race over for Hoveson.
Yeah, that just cost him all the draft with the slowdown penalty. And now Cantonio is in control with 4 minutes to work with.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. This is a battle between the teammates here. If Hoveson's able to catch back up, it's because these two teammates have started to battle a little bit too much, or we start to see that speed that got Hoveson the pole. Look at that. Clark wanted the lead. Okay, maybe it's not completely over for Hoveson.
It's going to require a lot of battling, though. That's the big difference. Does Clark want it that bad, or does Cantonio play a strong defense? Meanwhile, replay machine time. Hedgecox, this is what happened that cost him the AM lead.
That's his rejoin here. I thought it was going to be to the outside. That's unfortunate for Hedgecox. Yeah, these two are fighting right now.
And fighting aggressively. A 10th gain in the infield by Gregory Hoveson. These two have the chance to link up a bit on draft. Right now, Rob Clark trying to position himself perfectly for the run out of the bus stop with 3 minutes to go on the clock.
These guys are somehow pulling away, I guess because of the slipstream. Yeah, down the backstretch, but there's going to be 2 laps to go in this race. This is just awesome. What a good, solid race we've had here. And could we potentially see some side-by-side racing? Look at that, a move to the outside, just a peek, but goes back into the pushing. Maybe, no, goes down to the inside. Is this just...
Wow.
That's incredible. They're helping each other.
That's a call. And hey, it's early in the season, but Rob Clark up to the lead as Cantonio hits the brakes.
You gotta imagine they'll keep giving it back, right?
Right. We'll have to see.
I mean, hey, if the ultimate goal is just a team win, they'll keep doing that. But that would take away some fight there.
What's happened in the heart of the field? Jason Hodgson. way flat, way into a car.
You usually don't like to see that.
Is Cantonio going to try and get the spot back? We'll find out soon. Jason Allen, he gained the spot with Yun having to slow down similar to Gregory Hobson's call. Marc-Andre Garon is in position to possibly battle for this podium for the final lap.
I mean, hey, that's quite impressive from Marc-Andre Garon. He's had a solid race for him. He's one of those drivers I feel like, I don't know if they're championship quality, but definitely a podium fighter. If he can get 2 positions here, he's got the speed. They might go 3 wide going into turn 1 here.
White flag is out, final time around this time. Leaders have not made any moves, but up in this pack, Allen, Yun, Garon poking, Yun going outside, Allen lets him go, and here comes Garon. No dice.
Don't look now, but Hovesen is just a few tenths back.
Yeah, that's for the lead. But Rob Clark still up in front. Cantonio did not take the run into the in and out. He is waiting to see what happens here, it looks like. Gregory Hobson needs a lot to happen.
I'm really surprised.
Yeah, it's been a surprising race. But this one, it's definitely gone different than the fixed one. Let's find out how this now goes. Clark works his way to the bus stop. Cantonio looking for the setup. Hovsen has the double toe. Final run through NASCAR 3 and 4. Cantonio runs within 3 car lengths, down to 2. Now gets himself close to 1. Can he get a run? Is he too far back? Rob Clark holds onto the old line. He'll stay to the old line to take the checker flag and win it at Daytona.
Awesome race. But I am surprised because it almost felt like Cantonio gave him it a couple laps ago.
That's going to be an interesting question for post-race with him. And Cantonio's out of gas.
Is that why?
Has to be.
Has to be. 100%.
It's almost like the Nashville Superspeedway NASCAR race all over again.
That was crazy, wasn't it not?
So, in the end, it's Rob Clark with more fuel. Chris Stewart got the AM win. And the rest of the drivers now crossing the stripe. There was a big spread in the field, by the way, amongst the lead lappers. 37 finishers, Dylan. A minute and 23-second difference.
Really? I mean, all the drivers did such an admirable job in this race. Yes, we saw offs, but overall, this was some close racing that went down to the wire multiple times in multiple groups. I'm happy we saw the race and we did in both the fixed and open series races, but this was definitely the stronger of the two.
Last of the finishers now crossing the stripe here. So in the end, all 37 finish things out. Now all results in unofficial for tonight, but all cars have at least finished their runs. So let's take a look. Rob Clark picking up the win over Kevin Cantonio, Gregory Hobson, then Yun and Allen, your top 5. Garon, Olivier, Lindquist, so on, and Arnaud Genest, your top 10. Jaquez, one of the big movers tonight, up to 11th. Chris Stewart, Amwin in 12th. Then it's Dickinson, Palacio, Holland, Williams, DeBone, and Crisp. Carollo and Moeller, your top 20. Spears, Campbell, Simpson, Knapp, Drake Smith, Ethan Bass, very quiet race, finished 26th. Hodgson, Jack Hedgecock's what could have very well been, looked dominant until those mistakes late. 28th overall instead. Brock and Robertson, the top 30. Rep, Anderson, Reeves, Finch, Sheriff, Stauffer, along with the lead lappers, your DNFs, Beaver, Max Tillinu, along with Miles Brown. Also DNFing Boisvert, Gonzalez, Wagner, Lanning, and 2 DNSs for Acudo and for Fowler. They both elected not to start the race. So in the very end, it's Rob Clark who gets the checker flag here. In the end, Rob Clark able to pick up win number 1 this season. How are you feeling, Rob?
Over the moon excited. Can't thank you guys enough for putting on this league, and very happy to represent Solpec Precision Racing.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about the final laps there. What was going through your mind with you and Kevin Cantonio, and then it appears with the fuel situation with Cantonio letting you go?
Yeah, he did. So we were sitting there kind of figuring out what to do. Of course, he took less fuel in pits, so he was able to gain a little bit of an advantage on me. Of course, as you saw, we came out P1, P3. And of course, the slowdown gave us the P1, P2. It was at that point that Kev and I realized, all right, I can push Kev. But then we got to a situation where he was still needing to save quite a bit. So we figured let's give him a push coming into the start-finish, and then I will take the swap for P1 and hopefully give him enough to fuel save and bring P2. And of course, that's exactly what happened. So team strategy, really thanks to Kev for calling that out, because I couldn't have done it without him to bring home the win and of course a P1, P2 for the team. You can't ask for much more, can you?
Absolutely. Now, the next race is Misano, and was checking the discords here. There's a conversation about the weather possibly next week. Your thoughts on Misano, especially with there being a talking point possibly on rain?
Yeah, so I talk about this on stream a fair bit, and I've talked to the community. I personally feel like iRacing's current state of grip is almost more accurate in the wet than it is in the dry. And so that's something that I love, is that accurate representation to where when rain was first released, sure, there's a little bit of getting adjusted to feeling it out in the sim, but before too long, it felt second nature. So although Misano is not necessarily a strong suit track of mine yet, I'll be practicing it a lot this week. And hopefully my strengths in the rain can pull us out another victory next week.
We'll see if that indeed ends up being a wet weather race and how many people's computers melt. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you so much, guys.
Rob Clark getting the victory tonight. Kevin Cantonio, he elects to save fuel, gets himself a Team 1-2 in the result with Dylan.
Yeah, Kevin, you know, it was a really solid run for you. You ran 4th for the first stint of this race, and we actually were talking about you. It was quiet for you, but we figured you guys in 4th and 5th would go a little bit off strategy that the top 3 would go on. You made the overcut, but you did take a lot less fuel. Do you feel like, looking back, you had more that you could have taken and still been in the conversation for the win?
I don't know. I think I could have taken 1 more liter, and I don't know if I would have been ahead of Greg, but I would have definitely been able to race without having to save at the end. But I don't know, things just ended up working out. Greg got a slowdown at some point, and Greg and Aiden fighting the whole race really helped saving fuel, because he had to defend that a lot into turn 1 and the whole infield. But yeah, the fuel saving was just the way I think it was the best I could have done.
Obviously, you were close in that championship battle going on last year. You were right up there. But I feel like this year, you know, you get this second place here. You feel like there's another chance for you to be right back up fighting?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those Delta Sport Lambos are quick, but knowing this track's it feels like a one-off because it's a huge draft track, so we'll just have to see how the rest of the weeks play out. I have no idea how it's going to be.
Do you feel like any other tracks on the circuit might really benefit the Porsches more than the others, and also having that close team relationship that you two at Friend have?
Yeah, I mean, the next one, I think Misano, I think that's a pretty good track for the Porsche. I don't know how the Lambos and other Corvettes are there, but the Porsche is definitely really good there. That I know of. I honestly don't remember what the next tracks are than that, but Misano would be really good for us.
Heck yeah. Well, Kevin, congratulations once again on P2, and congrats on the team on a 1-2 finish.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, Justin.
Yes, indeed. Kevin Cantonio gets himself a second place run. Third spot tonight. Went to the driver led the majority of the race. Gregory Hobson, talk us through that race as you led the first half and then pit stops.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. It's kind of tough when the guy in P2 never pushes you. When you're trying to fight against P3 and P4, who are all on the same team. They did it correctly. It's just annoying that I didn't have Carl this week, because then it could have been a fair fight. But yeah, if I got a push throughout the first stint and Aiden maybe saved a bit of fuel as well, we could have probably popped out and sort of in tandem. And then I had to go aggressive on the fuel strategy. Coming out of the pits, I probably took a liter too little, but that was the only way I could probably stay with the group. But yeah, all in all, it's okay. It's a decent race. The pace was fine. I think one lap pace, I definitely had it over everybody. But when it comes to Daytona, especially with the Lambo, I had it fully trimmed out to basically as fast as it can go in a straight line, and it still lacked 2 kph to the Vet, and then it's still another kph to the Porsches as well. So sort of did what I could. We'll say that.
Why do you think that difference is in the, you said kph?
Yeah, sorry. In the top speed. Yeah. So yeah, that's just
you're
the way the
Canadian.
cars are. Yeah, what?
Oh,
we're Canadian, mate.
Yes, kilometers. Okay, yes.
Yes.
Too much Canada Day excitement for him.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, it is what it is. Like the Porsche has always been good here. When it's fully trimmed out, I lose a kph, and that's the jungle. That is what it is. I think I managed it as good as I could. At the beginning of the race was fine, but now that's 2 PRL races down for me and 2 slowdowns. So I'll hopefully tighten that up and maybe we can fight a bit more.
In turn, what's your thoughts on Misano, the next race?
I probably have 3 minutes of track time there, so yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll get up to speed relatively quickly, I hope, and yeah, I work with all the DS guys as usual. They were a big help this week again, as you can see with getting pole as well. Wouldn't have been able to do it without some teammates, where I'm sure everybody else down the grid who has teammates would say the same. I'm sure a lot of influence with toe and all that was all day. So we'll see with Misano. It's more of a tight, twisty one. Different characteristic than the Daytona Speedway. So yeah, looking forward to it. I don't know about rain, to be fair. I've probably driven the least amount of rain on the grid, so we'll see. Like I said, we'll try and get up to speed quick.
Gregory Hobson coming away with the podium. Congratulations.
Yeah, much appreciated, guys.
So the top 3 there. We still also have one more to speak with, that being Chris Stort. He was your M winner here tonight. He's with Dylan.
Yeah, Chris, solid job for you. You didn't have too much to worry about in the AM class at the end after the mistake from Hedgecox gave you that place. But hey, you were right in that same group with him the whole time. You were the benefactor of his mistake. And at the end of the day, to finish first, you first must finish. So take us through your race.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I think I just had a lot of good, consistent laps. And that's what matters. No mistakes, and able to finish 12th, which in top AM, which is amazing. And really just thankful for the SimCity Racing guys to let me join them today. And it was a lot of fun hanging out with them in Discord. Lots of great teamwork going on, qualifying. Shout out to Sean. And yeah, that was my race. Just tried to not make any mistakes. Sounds really simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds simpler than it probably is when you're in behind the wheel of the car. I do have to ask, when you're getting 12th place overall, but you are winning the class, is there a little bit of excitement still there for being a class winner, or is it more you want to just keep climbing up the field? It's just kind of a nice to have, but not the end all be all.
No, for me, it is. I'm ecstatic when you're the top AM with a group of guys that are as fast as this crew is. I feel like I won the race. This happened last season in Bathurst. I was top AM and finished 5th, and that was a rain race, so lots of chaos there, of course. But at the end of the day, like the guys I'm racing around are extremely fast. So I don't look at it and think like I'm just trying to climb. I look at this as an accomplishment for sure.
Heck yeah, man. That is something we 100% like to hear. You feel like you can win that AM class by the end of the season?
All I'm going to do is put my head down, work hard every week, work with my guys, and see what happens.
All right, Chris. Hey, congratulations again on that AM class win. It's definitely going to be a nice little mark to look back on. Hey, and maybe your championship fight.
Love it. Thanks, guys.
Not a problem. Justin, some great racing here in the Sprint Series. And really, I mean, overall, Daytona just provided some awesome action in both races. Definitely, though, we were treated with a beautiful one of a sprint race.
And next time out, it's going to be an intriguing one because there is GT racing that takes place at Misano, but there is talk of potential weather in the forecast. That starts 8:30 p.m. All you can say is you have to tune in to see if it's going to be a wet one or not. We'll find out here on RaceSpot by that point. On that note, though, it's time to say goodbye tonight from iRacing's virtual Daytona. An interesting one to say the very least. And what was some exciting racing for the PRL GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series here on RaceSpot. For my co-announcer tonight in Dylan Coyle, for producer Ramiro Cisneros, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your day or evening. You've been watching the PRL's Fixed and Sprint Series for the GT3s from Daytona. We'll see you next time from Misano.